Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at another interesting thing that comes to mind every time you lay your eyes upon the magnificent creations that inhabit the great tomb of Nezarec and Pandora's Actor. Just kidding. But aside from Ainz Ooal Gown now semi-regretting the creation of one of the most beloved characters in the entire series, the question is, could Ainz Ooal Gown create more NPCs? But before we're going to take a closer look at this question, let's take a closer look at my Patreons and thank them for supporting this channel. And also thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. And also thanks to my Patreons for selecting this very topic. Now, with that said, let's dive into the NPCs and how NPCs creation worked in Yggdrasil Online to understand if and how Ainz could recreate or even create more NPCs. First and foremost, what we now know as NPCs of Nezarec are the so-called guild NPCs. Simply speaking, every guild base comes with a certain amount of levels that can be used for customizable NPCs. And even the smallest of guild bases, the castle level, would at the very least offer 700 levels for the creation of NPCs. And the guild members could then use the levels for the creation of NPCs, meaning the smallest guild could have, for example, 700 level 1 NPCs or 7 level 100 NPCs. And to circle back to the Great Tomb of Nezarec, this would mean that you could have either another 46 homunculi mates or 1 Shizu Delta. A tough decision indeed. And the Great Tomb of Nezarec had been given and had amassed an absolute ridiculous amount of levels. For example, the Floor Guardians Aura, Mare, Sheltier, Cocytus, Demiurge, as well as the Butler of Steel and the Floor Guardian Overseer, have already reached the maximum available levels of small guild bases on their very own. But wait, there's more. Factor and Victim, Pandora, the overlords of the Great Library of Nezarec, Albedo's sisters, and you have already spent a very high amount of levels. Furthermore, the Chamber of Nigredo alone, or rather her holding cell in the frozen prison, has dozens of crying baby NPCs that are more or less there for decoration, and all of them have levels in their teens. And although this heavy use of customizable level NPCs led to internal conflict that Ainz had to resolve by buying more levels in the in-game store, spending what equates to the entire pool of a small guild base just on cosmetics for 1 level 100 NPC, namely Nigredo, shows just how much custom levels the Great Tomb had, especially because many other NPCs, such as the Pleiades and the other mates, the 5 First, the many area guardians like Gurren for example, Cocytus' personal bodyguards, or Demiurge's evil lords, or the entirety of the 8th floor where Nezarec's main fighting force is located, have likely even more levels than most other guild bases combined. But there's also this first problem. Since the guild base had been transported into the new world, the in-game item shop had been unavailable for rather obvious reasons, and other functions of the guild had also been restricted. For example, the console is now only accessible from the Throne of Kings, which means that even if Ainz Ooal Gown's guild base has still custom NPC levels left to spend, then there would be perhaps no way to actually spend them on another customizable NPC. But let's say that Ainz Ooal Gown can still access the guild function via his control panel, which is unconfirmed that this particular function is still in the package, but let's just pretend it is there. Then the question is, how can he acquire more levels, since now the real money in-game shop is literally a dimension away? Well, Ainz could use Wish Upon a Star, or even a or several world-class items in order to receive access or regain a method that lets him manage the creation of characters like in the game of Yggdrasil, and provide him also with a method to replenish the custom NPC level pool of the guild. Perhaps by sacrificing gold, which Ainz can already create by throwing grain and other replenishable resources in the shredder in exchange for gold pieces. But even if Ainz gets full access to all of the former guild systems and a replenished level pool, the Overlord of the Great Tomb of Nazarick would still lack one vital component of creating his NPCs: artistic skill. In the very first novel, it was stated that the guild had some very talented graphic designers and artists, hence why most of the NPCs look like supermodels after being photoshopped to perfection. But this leaves Ainz with the problem that he wasn't one of them, and that he, thus far, didn't seem to have customized Pandor's actor to a great degree. As far as his looks are concerned, a smooth mask with holes in it most certainly isn't something that is worthy of notice. While Pandor's actor has most certainly an exciting personality, his looks are very simplistic, to say the absolute least. So currently Ainz had no ability to create something on the Pleiades level as far as looks are concerned. But nonetheless, some creatures, some creations, like slime and goo creatures for example, could be designed up to the usual Nazarick standard. And eventually Ainz could learn, after spending half an eternity in the character creation editor, how to create NPCs with absolute stunning looks. But again, it isn't guaranteed that he can do so, and it would likely cost him some wish spells and likely a world item or two, if he has the right ones available in the first place. The kind that lets you change the rules of the world, like Ouroboros for example. Now, lastly, if you want to get a current picture of how skilled Ainz Ooal Gown is in the terms of character design, these golems here were created in the image of his friends, and yet, due to Ainz Ooal Gown's lack of 3D modeling experience, they looked way off. The next type of monster are the so-called pop monsters, who likely make up the bulk of Nazarick's forces. They are, for lack of a better term, trash mobs. But as trash mobs tend to be, they are fairly numerous, and they simply spawn and respawn into existence without requiring custom NPC levels or additional resources. As long as the upkeep for the guild is paid, the pop monsters stay popped. But again, as far as I'm concerned, you simply can't create more of them, unless you expand the guild bases. And the last type of NPC that Ainz can and indeed has created to a certain degree, with great effectiveness, are the mercenary NPCs. The name is a bit misleading, but they are basically summons by another name, and they require a summoning book and at least some gold pieces paid as tribute. For example, the Hanzos seen here are a fine example of these monsters. And the only disadvantage that these mercenary NPCs have is that they are limited, meaning as soon as the Great Library runs out of summoning books, no more NPCs can be summoned. Which, to be fair, is fairly unlikely, since there are 10 times more summons in the library than there's gold in the treasury vault. And lastly, despite the name mercenary NPCs, they are as loyal as other NPCs to their creator. And I suppose that I should at least touch upon summoning items like the Horn of the Goblin General. Basically, you blow the horn and goblins shall appear. These summons will then serve you until either you or they are killed. And you can create more of them as long as you have enough items. So creating more summoning items would be an interesting endeavor, to say the absolute least. And the undead summons of Ainz function the very same way, except that they need a soul to anchor themselves in the new world. So a Death Knight created from the body of a slain soldier will stay permanently in the new world until killed. A Death Knight without such a host will eventually just disappear, even though he is at full health. And with that said, I hope you now have a better understanding about the Great Tomb's ability to summon monsters. Lastly, I'm curious about a thing. If you could use this NPC creation tool, which kind of NPCs would you create? And why are there cat girls? So, anyway, thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Bad Guy Yee, Ben C, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Dystopia the Second, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantom, Paz Sonich, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon under my next video.